So hello everyone, welcome to this webinar series continuing today on radioactive waste management and transparency and public participation. So a quick recall of the frame of this webinar series. It's coming from a work done by NTW, so in the ERAD joint program, on the application of transparency and public participation in the development of national radioactive waste program with 9 national case studies. This presentation will be recorded and shared on online on the YouTube channel of NTW. In the description, you will find a link to this deliverable, but you can already have a look on this publication on internet on the ERAD website. Writing D917 ERAD deliverable. So, and you can also access to the previous national cases recorded on the YouTube channel of NTW. So those case studies are including some early stage or advanced program in both large and small inventories. And the main focus was to evaluate the implementation of the Aarhus Convention in site selection with also an additional criteria taken from the BEPPER report developed by NTW, questioning the access to resources for civil society in terms of for its involvement, and you have here an overview of the different webinar that took place since the beginning of the year. We are now in November with the German case that I will present today on behalf of Rebecca Arms, and next month we have on 14th of December the last presentation from Anna Konvalinkova on the Czech case. So with that, I can start presenting the national case of Germany. Again, it's an article. It's this part of the deliverable, and this case study was written from an article of Rebecca Arms, an NTW member and also a former member of the European Parliament, describing the situation of radioactive waste management towards transparency and public participation in Germany. So it all started in 1977, mainly with a decision to site a highly radioactive final waste repository in the Salt Dome of Gorleben, in the German border, so eastern and western border at the time, and this after almost 40 years led in 2021 to a decision to consider that Salt Dome were not geologically suitable, confirming the arguments of the opposition that took place for decades, raising that it was a strictly political decision. Therefore, the 79 other Salt Dome as well as Gorleben were put aside in the search of a radioactive waste repository. You have here a picture of the Gorleben interim storage facility. An important date between those dates, the very beginning in 1977 and the recent decision in 2021 not to site in Gorleben, was the Federal Act on Governing Access to Information, and 10 years after, the Site Selection Act in 2016, which includes a criteria for safety Also, the responsibility of final disposal, which is taken away from the industry, an independent and public participation foreseen regionally and nationally. And finally, the support from the federal office named BASE and the independent and citizen-oriented actor, the national monitoring body, NBG. So those two acts, as well as the political discussion, aside from the civil society engagement, led to a new open-ended approach, very, very far away from the framework of 1977. And this new approach is now much more science-based, much more participatory, and trying to be a learning process, considering the now all suitable geology, so not only deposits of salt, but also clay or granite. And almost all federal states are considered. In 2021, after the decision to not to cite the repository in Gorleben, the involvement and the public participation for the new discussion on site selection started with some difficulties, because a lot of critics arised from the different stakeholders involved, mainly due to the fact that at that time the COVID did not allow a proper participation, or at least in-person physical participation. And the decision to start anyhow in those conditions were criticized. Therefore, in February 2022, the first expert forum has been established, with citizens, organizations, municipal representatives, academics, youth, all providing knowledge and trying to reduce the participation gap. This was described, this general new process has been described by the IAEA Artemis team leader as led to this declaration, at least from the IAEA Artemis team leader, that Germany has now, of course, an important program of radioactive waste management and decommissioning, and that many lessons have been learned that will help the international community. And you have here on the slide a picture calling for participation to the second repository search forum of 2023, after the first one that took place, as I said, in 2022. So if critics remain, it has been a great hard-won advance, but also a long way is still to go. In fact, there's at least a decade before site selection can be approved by the Bundestag. And after this at least decade, there is 30 years also at least before the operating license could be granted. So we are in a long-term perspective. Regarding the access to justice now, a national law can provide already an independent arbitration. And for the access to resources, it has been foreseen to set legally civil society groups, even though it's not yet done at the moment. And with this, I will recommend that you have a look at the page 86 of the deliverable 917 of the Roots report, for which the link will be in the description of this presentation, where you can have more detail about this case and as well as the global framework for transparency and civil participation. Now, if you have any comments of remarks, please do not hesitate to do so. I have first in the comments a remark saying that NBG is not exactly a monitoring body, but an oversight body, nationals, so national citizens oversight community. So thank you very much, Gabriel, for that.
Yeah, and thanks, Malcolm. And perhaps another short remark on the dates you presented in your last or second last slide. When the site is planned to be selected, formally this was the beginning of the 30s, but now it has shifted officially, and the earliest date is now 2046. But other scenarios also go up to 2068. And this is quite important because the participatory process has been designed for this earlier site selection. So now this process has to be sort of amended, renewed, because it will last for 2 to 3 decades longer, and it hasn't been designed for this. So this will be a little bit of a challenge, I think.
It's very interesting. Do you know when this this amendment took place? Around?
Yeah, it was it last year or?
So it's quite recent.
It's not. Yeah.
Okay, that's the reason why, because the article from Rebecca Arms is from I think three years ago or so, and the publication of the report is now more than a year ago. The publication is more recent, but the finalization of so
it was end of last year, if I remember right, because I remember that the base, you mentioned it, they protested against this. They said, oh, it should be earlier.
Okay.
And so this was even, in December, yeah, so decision has been taken end of last year.
So even longer perspective, leading to at least the end of around the second part of the century at least.
Yeah, middle or after middle of the century.
Yeah.
I would like to say that really this is the whole site selection will be a very long process, and this is a normal procedure also in other countries. It is important that really this process, how to involve public, is regularly modified, and first to be agreed what kind of modification should be done, because here we already have, to my opinion, these intergenerational issues, which of course will need to be taken into account if we are talking on, let's say, 2, 3, or even 4 decades of the development. And this is a clear sign that something should be done. And in Roots work package, we also tackle that in our last deliverable, which is still under review. And we are describing or proposing different rolling stewardships, long and short term. So this is something what we could propose to the German colleagues to have a look and to think about.
Definitely. And about the Gabriel, what you said, I had a question also for the what kind of updates, let's say, of the participatory process would you foresee? Nadia described, actually gave reference to ideas, different of forms of rolling stewardship that you are aware of. But in this very case, what do you think would be relevant?
Yeah, Germans think it's relevant, and I also agree to this, that you have to think about several things at the same time. First, if the final repository's operation start is delayed, then this means that the interim storages will have to be operated longer. And they were not designed for very long operations. So this is really a challenging task in Germany. And participation, of course, is needed to tackle this. So that's the one thing. And the other thing is that, when participation lasts over decades, you have to amend it in regular intervals, because new generations will join the structures and the procedures, and in theory, I think in Germany it's this is already foreseen in the law. It's called a learning procedure, I think, if this is the correct translation. But how this will be done in reality, we will see. But I think it's really necessary, because if you think in 20 years from now, many people will no longer be active who are active now, and how is everything handed over? How are young generations better included and brought into the process? Which might not have been so difficult if the site selection would have been beginning of the 30s as it was originally planned. But now you have these up to 2 decades. We will see.
Yeah, there is already a, I think, an interesting body, independent body. That's the first step I find interesting in this case. But in fact, to fuel participation, and not just to have a non-discussion for decades and then forget about the exchange and lose the inputs and knowledge. There needs to be some fuel indeed, and it's in the article and the report. It's mentioned that the law forces to legally embed access to resources, some access to resources for civil society, but it's maybe it evolved since then, and I don't know how it is now. And indeed, it might be it will be different to foresee resources for 5 or 10 years than for half a century. So, do you have information on that?
No, but
Okay.
I agree. This is really important, because it's quite difficult to build up structures and institutionalize structures and bring people into participation. But it's really easy to lose all of this in a very short term, and especially if resources are cut.
I just had a message in my I have something that goes through media and also internationally, and it said that in the Czech Republic the government will choose the site now. They will not have a voluntary. They will have no veto from the community. Great.
That's a great teaser for next month, because the last presentation will be on Czech Republic next month.
Okay, it was a translation from something done by artificial intelligence sort of thing, but it clearly said that it was the responsibility of the government to take this kind of decisions and so on. And it's typically Czech, I would say. I don't know.
Well, Switzerland also does not allow for a veto any longer.
Yeah,
they changed their law.
Yeah.
They had this before, and then they had the Wellenberg disaster, where the canton 2 times decided against. No, we
Yeah.
don't want this, and then they changed the law
Mm.
to skip the veto possibility. So
Yeah, I think yeah, we will see more and more of this. I think, unfortunately, especially where you don't have nuclear communities. One more thing, Nadja.
Yeah.
I had a discussion with a colleague, well, somebody I know well, Thomas Kåberger. He's professor at Chalmers here, very good at in any issues. He sent me a couple of articles about Cusco in war, because and they are from the early 90s. These two articles.
Yes.
But you know of them, I guess. Then
Yeah,
also.
I know them.
91 and 92. Yeah.
Yeah, I know them very well. And there was a kind of it was not really the attack on the NPP, but the Yugoslav army launched air fighters.
They threatened, right?
Yeah, and direct them to Krško, so they were just flying very nearby, and everybody was really very afraid. And then there were some investigations what could happen in case that there was a rocket fired against different areas of NPP, and it turns out that containment was okay, but there was of course spent fuel pool, which is in effect a normal industrial building without proper reinforcements and protection. So this would be completely destroyed, and you can imagine what could follow afterwards. So basically what they did, they made a very strong protest and everything, and that they shut down the NPP to be in the cool shutdown regime. So that was what was done, but you cannot do much more because the spent fuel building was not really designed for such attacks. And also, if you ruin the transformation system, or if you ruin the steam generator and turbine building, which is of course also not designed to resist the such attacks, it could be also a big disaster. So that's why they put it in they shut it down, basically.
Yeah, I put the two files on the chat here.
Yeah.
There is also one more thing that actually I think that Fukushima showed, that something that would actually have to be more planned, I think, in an attack. But if you are able to hit the batteries and the diesels for as backups, they are also often outside the containment, unfortunately. That's also quite a big
that's
thing
why
that you could
then the post-Fukushima assessment was done, so all the systems are now protected against the flooding and similar, so they are inside the special buildings and in a way protected. But if you if you drop the atom bomb, it doesn't matter really any longer.
No, of course not.
So you can protect against certain violence action, but not against everything.
Yep.
So this is also the lesson learned. So I don't know if you really can protect the NPP entirely.
They had this total failure, and then they had to restart. And I think there are interesting elements in this restarting, but also of course some shortcomings, which I don't know if they could ever be solved in any country.
Like what kind of shortcomings?
Like for example, in which issues the public is allowed to participate, and in which issues it's not. When I remember that I mentioned the Asse case, you know, this final repository going bad. And when we visited Germany from the, do you record this right
No,
now?
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
but I will not keep it.
Okay, yeah. We were informed that people were really not content with the participation, because they were allowed to give their opinion on some side questions. Yeah, for example, if the nuclear waste is excavated from Asse, there will be some, I don't know the English word, soil and stones and so on, yeah, which they have to dig out to get in the repository, and people can participate in the question where all this should be put in their community or somewhere else. So okay, yeah, but they are not asked and are not allowed to participate in the question where this excavated nuclear waste will be stored, where the new interim storage will be made, which is really of much more importance to the local community.
Yeah.
So yes,
Yeah.
participation is there, yes, but on not so important matters.
Yeah. Well, this is something which could be added to because the topic is sharing best practices on civil society involvement, and perhaps German case, because it, you know, we will be three, Colin, Malcolm, and myself there. So we intend to present our cases because we are not so sure. And Malcolm was working a lot on German case. So I mean, I will also expose that, of course, Slovenia case was a good one for a while. That's the main issue.
Yeah, well, in Germany, when they restarted with this law, this Stand AG, I think this is also, it was a good start to start with a, how do you call it, white map, so that all of Germany is in the discussion again, not only the Goalem side for the high level waste. And now they are reducing it due to the, how do they call it? They have two sets of criteria, the geological and hydrological criteria, which come first, which are used to reduce the number of regions that are suitable. And after that, perhaps the so-called, well, I don't know the exact translation, but sort of social criteria and planning criteria might be used for site selection. And plus the regional conferences have been established or will be established, which is, in my understanding, a very comprehensive participatory system. But we discussed this with German, with the WMO people from Germany, but it needs a lot of effort and time and energy, and I'm not sure if this is really, if this is the only instrument, if this is really suitable, because you have to have already a lot of competences to participate in this. So therefore, in Austria, we're thinking about something on a lower level, so that more people could be included.
Yeah, but this is again the problem, because they don't have the site, so they are, you know, really having a very broad, mapping, screening, and so this is just a kind of. But I think they would need to have in the process also a kind of modification and adaptation of the process according to the, you know, along the site selection, because when they will come, for example, when we started in Slovenia, we started across the whole country, so the whole Slovenia was involved, and then we make there is a also ministry process, so it's the conference on the spatial planning has to be performed, and then all municipalities were involved. So all who wanted, they came, and they hear what it will be. So the site for the low and intermediate level waste for short-lived. Then they were informed how much the volumes, what would be approximate possible design, what will be done, like field investigation, and the compensation mechanisms which were in place. So, and then we opened the tender process, and it lasts for half a year approximately, and we received 8 or something municipalities who applied. And we also, during this spatial conference, we also presented the criteria, and the public acceptability was one of the criteria, very strong. So if the public would be against it, the location would be excluded. So all the rest criteria, like economics, technical, safety was very high, and geology, because it was low and intermediate level waste repository, was not so high. So you can modify your design to fulfill geological, conditions. Basically, and so this set of criteria was available and defined in advance. So when the application came, we evaluated the proposals by the criteria. So this is one of the issues also, so that you need to have a flexible process, but also you need to modify it according to situation. So if you start on the whole territory of the country, then you will need to modify it when you have the potential locations to the site specific.
And in Slovenia, you only had one location left when you started with the.
No, there were two.
Two. Okay. But two. But
it started with 3, in fact. But one, they decided not to go further. So after a while, after 1 year, they decided to withdraw from the process.
And how were your criteria developed? Were they developed also using some participatory process, or
yes.
who did it?
Well, we first review what is ongoing in the world, and then we had several international projects like COVAM in practice, COVAM, and so on, and then the potential areas with the site of a nuclear site, so either with the MPP or research reactor or whatever. They were involved in this, so we discussed the criteria. So all the criteria were discussed with the public, and especially with the NGOs. So they were involved. They were supported to participate in this COVAM and so on. So yeah, basically they were in setting the criteria. And also when this spatial conference was held, it was around 1999. Also, all municipalities were invited still to have some comments if they want. So basically, it was quite an open process, very long, although from 95, when we start, to 2010 when the site was adopted.
Well, that's not so long.
But it's for the low and intermediate level repository.
Okay,
not for the high level. And this is the site only. And then they got the construction license now, so 2023. So,
okay.
Yeah. But thank you all. Yeah.
Okay.
We can
So
close
bye-bye.
the meeting, and thanks all for being there.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.